Hi, welcome to the second video of a series of videos. I still haven't figured out how many that I'm going to do on the topic of wool applique and embroidery. It's for you, my friends in the Shuswap Needle Arts Guild, and to anybody that accidentally stumbled in, you're welcome to stay and you're welcome to listen. Because I'm speaking to a Needle Arts Guild, there's not a lot I can tell you that you don't already know about needles and thread. So I'm just going to focus on the needles and the thread that I use to make the project in the pattern. So let's just get started on that. Milliner's needles. They're my favorite. They're my go-to. I really like them because they're longer than embroidery needles. I can thread them relatively easily. They're easier on my hands because they're a little bit longer. Some would argue that you can't make as small of a stitch with a longer needle, but I'm not really worried about that. So I stick with these. This is a size 3. It works great with pearl cotton size 8. This is a size 10. This is a single strand of embroidery floss. This is a size 11 that is put out by Sue Daly, and it's got a larger eye in it, and it's great for threading. So I love that too. They come in a variety of packaging. You can get them in single sizes. This is size 3. You can size 10. There's the size 11. Here's 2 mixed packages, meaning size 5 through 10 is in here. Size 3 through 9 is in here. If you've never used them before, I'd recommend that you go with a package like this. So you've got an assortment of needles so you can try them out and see what you think. I live near Salmon Arm, BC. The Thread and Paper is my go-to store, and I know they sell these packages from 3 till 9. Of 3 till 9. So yeah, Milliner's needles. Embroidery needles. I do have some. These come in packages like the ones I showed you with the Milliner's needles. There's single size embroidery needles, size 5 here. There's a mixed set here. These are chenille needles. I don't really know what these are. It's a chenille needle or a embroidery needle. Sorry, don't know. Had this for a long time, but I really like them. What I've put here is these are the embroidery needles, and these are the 2 of the Milliner's needles, just so for a little bit of a comparison for you. This is the chenille needle here, and you can kind of see that it's got a fairly long eye on it. These are the embroidery needles, and they have fairly long eyes on them, so they're easier to thread. I grant you that, than a Milliner's needle. They're nice and short if that's what you like to use. They are quite pointy, which is neither here nor there, I guess, because Milliner's needles are pointy too. But having said that, they are tapered. So they're larger here and they gradually taper down to the point. A Milliner's needle is the same all the way until it gets to the point. And so with doing French knots or bullion stitch, I like the Milliner's needle because it's the same size all the way through. But you can do those stitches with embroidery needles as well. So it's up to you. You know what you like. Use what you like. Embroidery needles. Quickly, the last things I'd like to show you are needle threaders and embroidery pins. I love these embroidery pins. They're very short and they work great, and my thread doesn't get caught around them when I'm trying to sew down my applique. And having said that, that's a bit of a lie. Thread always gets caught around any needle. It doesn't matter around any pin. It doesn't matter what kind of pin it is. But it seems to happen less with these ones because they're smaller. That's why I like them. The other thing I stumbled into a few years ago are these. This is a micro needle threader. I use it for with my Milliner's needles all the time. I use this with my crewel and embroidery needles, and they work really, really well. They're sturdy, they get the job done, and for me they're so much better than those fiddly little silver pieces of, anyways, that the wire pulls out. Anyhow, that doesn't happen with these. I love them. They're by the Puffin Company. They're called Magnetic Micro Needle Threaders. I bought mine online from 2 different places. I purchased them from Cindy's Threadworks there on Vancouver Island, and I've also purchased them from Traditional Stitches. They're close to Calgary. I'm sure that you can buy them almost anywhere. Well, maybe not anywhere, but you can find them if you go looking for them. They are a little bit more expensive. Well, okay, they're a lot more expensive than the little tin needle threaders, but I found that they have been absolutely worth it. And I whenever I see them, I buy more because they get caught in my sweater and I end up carrying them around the house. Okay, too much sharing, but there it is. Pins, threader. Thanks for watching. Let's talk about thread, the applique portion. So I've got in front of me a bit of a variety of threads. There's the 60 weight superior cotton that is quite lovely for all sorts of applique. 60 weight is a little bit thinner than your standard cotton sewing thread. This is Aurifil's. This is 50 weight. This will work too. So 50 weight, I mean, hang on, anything will work. Any thread, any thickness that you want to use will work for applique. So let's just get that kind of out there. It just depends upon what your end result is going to be, what you're looking for. If you're looking for stitches that don't show up when you're doing your applique, then the 60 weight or the 50 weight will work. Silk thread is 100 weight. It works great. This is Invisifil by Wonderfil. Invisifil by Wonderfil. It's 100 weight. They call it a cottonized polyester. It's my latest favorite. I use it a lot for English paper piecing. The same goes for the silk. But I also used it on this project to applique with. This is polyester sewing thread. I'm not sure kind of what the weight is, but it seems like it's around a 50 weight. If you have to, you can totally do that. And then the other thing that I used, or the other types that I used, was wool. This is an Aurifil product. It's 50% wool and 50% acrylic. It works really nicely. People say that with the wool, when you're appliquing it, if you've got the right color, it just disappears into the wool and you just can't see your stitches at all. And you know what? They're right. It does seem to disappear into your wool, and it is lovely to use. This is the same kind of a thing. It's also 50% wool. It's by a company called Genziana. I used this on the paperweights. I used the wool because I hadn't used it for a while and I just wanted to test it out and see what I thought. And it reminded me that I like it. The other obvious choice that I haven't touched on is embroidery floss. The miracle that is embroidery floss. You can use it for so many things. One strand of cotton embroidery floss works really well, and it comes in so many different colors, and it also is readily available in most communities. You can just go out to a big box store or your local craft store, and they likely will have some embroidery floss. This is DMC, but I've also used Anchor. There's some other types out there that people are putting out on their own, and I've tried some of those. But this is there it is. That's what I use for my applique. The other thing that people use sometimes is a bit of glue, and they use one of those glue pens that's washable, and they put a dab of it on to make their applique piece hold on while they do the embroidery around it. So they use the glue instead of thread for sewing it down. So you can do that too. I've tried that. It works okay as long as you don't ever want to stitch into the spot where the glue was, because that becomes kind of difficult. The other problem that I've had with it is it takes a lot of glue to make it stay. So if you use just a little bit of glue, that's fine, but plan on getting that embroidery done the same day that you put the glue on it. The other item that I tried, because I've read online about it, and I only just tried it yesterday, was Steam-A-Seam. Steam-A-Seam Light, or Heat and Bond Light. Those the iron-on, the fusible stabilizers or fusible glue kind of stuff. A lot of people like to use that stuff because they put down all of their pieces that need to be appliqued, and then the piece becomes portable. You don't have to pin it down or sew it down ahead of time. All they need to do is use this Heat and Bond or whatever they choose, the fusible that they choose, and they're off to the races. They just start embroidering right away. So I thought, hey, that's kind of cool. I should give that a try. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the camera in close so you can see. I tried it on this little piece here, but I want to bring it in close so you can see what I mean when I tell you what I think about using this. Okay, so here we go. This is a flower, clearly, that I used fusible to attach to the leaf. I maybe overdid it because it's on there really well. So there's probably better ways to do it than that. But here's the thing, that's the way I did it. And here's the problem that I'm having is that trying to get the needle through the glue is actually a real pain, and it's not a nice smooth process, and appliquing in wool is just an awesomely smooth process most of the time. The other thing, and I can't really show it to you, is that the needle gets sticky. Like I'm going to have to go clean this needle, and that's a pain too. This is a really fine needle. This is a size 11 Milliner's needle that I'm using here, and that's my problem with this. Now, I think if I had used less, clearly if I'd used less of the fusible, this would have worked better. But I didn't, and it doesn't. So if you were going to just use a little bit here and there, I think it might be kind of good. But what you'd have to do is make sure that your embroidery doesn't need to go through those glue spots, because you're going to run into the same problem. The needle's going to get sticky. So if you strategically place the fusible, yeah, it might be a good idea. But if you do what I did, it's, in my opinion, for what it's worth, it's not a very good idea. Okay, so when I made this, I used, just for ease, in this case, it was going for speed and simple. I used my pearl cotton. I used size 8, and it comes in many formats by many different companies, and it's great stuff, pearl cotton. This is the Valdani. Actually, this is an 8 and this is a 12. This is Wonderfill, and this is an 8. This is Presentia, and it's a 12. It's thin. I think people say it equals about 2 strands of embroidery floss. This does. You can use anything you want. And as an example, when I look at this one and this one here, I did a wrapped running stitch around both of these, and I wished I hadn't used a size 8. I wished I'd used maybe a size 5 or something, maybe 6 strands of embroidery floss or something instead of just a size 8, because you can see it's pretty tiny and it's hard to see. And in relationship to these two that are also done in size 8, but the stitches were bigger, it barely shows up on here. So keeping your options open and using multiple thread sizes in a project is absolutely a great way to go. Sometimes you make these kind of goofs, or at least I do, and got to live with them, but this is a mug rug trivet kind of thing, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time worrying about it. So let's move that out of the way. With the pin cushion, I went with crewel wool. I used crewel wool because I found it in my stash. I'd forgotten that I had it. I have quite a lot of it. It works great. It looks a little bit different. There's just a slightly different muted kind of texture to it. It's not as shiny, but it clearly it has its place. And if you enjoy using wool, then you should use wool. So that's the threads that we're going to be that I've been using, and I'll probably reuse them again in the tutorial as we carry on. So that was part 2, needles and thread. In part 3, I'm going to talk about wool fabric, thrift stores, and upcycling, and washing, and cleaning, and buying, and the difference between felted wool and wool felt. It'll be completely awesome. I'll see you there. Take care.